Kate, to you, you've flown over here from London, and this is a mission for you. Why is dyslexia so important to you, and what is your message?
So I'm incredibly lucky because I and actually my whole family went to an amazing school, a mainstream school in the UK that supported dyslexia. It was actually set up in the 1930s, and so we've known that long how you support dyslexic kids. We've also known for that long that with dyslexia comes this amazing way of thinking. So from a personal level, I just want every parent to have that access to that education because it's hugely, hugely important. But also we're living in a world of change. We have the fourth industrial revolution here, and the type of thinking and the type of intelligence that the world needs today is exactly how dyslexic people think. So there's a huge value to the world in actually finding these kids and giving them the support. So that's our mission as a global charity, is to help the world understand dyslexia and then produce tools and online resources so everybody can access the training and the support that kids need.
And that's what's so key. It's sort of democratizing what you experience in a positive way, what you give to a limited amount of Atlanta children. And Microsoft is helping with that. I mean, how exciting is this project, and how much bigger do you think it's going to get as well?
So I think Microsoft is and always has been committed to ensuring every person on the planet achieves more. When we look at education, it's about ensuring every student achieves their full potential. A recent study sort of showed that 1 in 5 students has dyslexia. So it's imperative that we support those students and empower them to succeed in life.
Yeah, so talk us through these videos as well. I mean, how key are they?
So we've worked and partnered with Made by Dyslexia to have teacher training. One of the biggest challenges for a dyslexic student is even when they have been identified, getting that right support. And one of the biggest challenges for an educator is to know how to support effectively. So there's nothing better than working with the amazing schools around the world and people like Kate and Made by Dyslexia to really bring together this teacher training to enable educators to take it into the classroom with more confidence.
Yeah, and how frustrating is it for you? You're dyslexic. We know the ways to help dyslexic kids, and so few kids have that opportunity that, you know, kids coming here, even within Atlanta, never mind in other places or in South Africa where I'm from. So how frustrating is that, and how much of a relief is it to be able to share?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's incredibly frustrating to think that you have tens of thousands of these incredibly bright kids sitting in a classroom who aren't being recognized and aren't being supported. And I always say that the double-edged sword of dyslexia is that you're smart enough to know it's not working. So it's not that you're sitting there and you're oblivious. You have second and third graders who are trying so hard and are so capable and are just being beaten down because we don't have the tools and the awareness. So when Kate called and said we had this opportunity to not only take folks that have an expertise in dyslexia, but also folks that have achieved amazing things, and to talk about and to not only say, I did this, I'm dyslexic, many of them say, I did this because I'm dyslexic. And I think that is a huge part of this conversation. And not only are we going to help teachers, we're going to empower people to understand that I am capable of doing so much.
Yeah, I mean, it turns out that big picture thinking comes more naturally to a dyslexic than being able to spell dyslexia.
Yes, very true. Yes.
I don't know about you, but it doesn't come out the first time ever. So what is I mean, also, was it hard trying to just funnel the 1 or 2 or 3 main points that you needed to get off quickly and fast to teachers in this? How did you decide what needed to be shared the most?
It was incredibly difficult, and Kate was such a wonderful partner to help us say, simplify. Just tell the story.
It's a dyslexic strength.
Yes. But you know, we started this and we wanted to tell everybody everything, right down to the very A to Z, and we realized that we can educate people. We don't have to turn the world into dyslexia experts. we can give them enough knowledge to know it's not something to be afraid of, it's not something that we can't talk about, and it's not something that we need to hide from our kids. One of the most powerful parts of being a part of this is I've received calls from all over the country of people calling to saying to me, you know, thank you so much for being, for the Schenck School being part of this with Made by Dyslexia. I watch these videos with my 3rd grader. And I just, no, excuse me, I never expected that. That was this wonderful opportunity to get right to the students and not just the teachers.
Yeah, and from your point of view, I mean, this is just the beginning for Made by Dyslexia, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've released 5 awareness modules, which are on the Microsoft Educator platform. We have 5 more modules coming later in the year, and then we're going to be back over filming in Atlanta and filming in the UK as well for the more in-depth training, which will be released next year. So our mission really is to help educators to get skilled up, but it's for parents too. It's, you know, there's lots of amazing insight and support for parents. Because the crazy thing is that our teacher training colleges around the world don't routinely train teachers in dyslexia. And if it's 1 in 5 kids in your classroom, which a lot of research is suggesting it is, that is a huge number of students.
Well, every teacher is going to be teaching a dyslexic kid.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, what works for dyslexic children works for all kids. So it's really a win-win. It's just making sure we get the right intervention into schools and the right way of teaching them reading from the get-go.
From Microsoft's point of view, how do you get this out to as many people as possible?
So I think it's a couple of things. The first is getting people comfortable with saying, I have dyslexia, or my child has dyslexia. And I think the work that Kate and Made by Dyslexia are doing there is really, really helping. From a Microsoft perspective, we amplify that via blogs, via events. So at the ISTE event this year, you'll see Made by Dyslexia on our booth. And you'll also see the Made by Dyslexia pledge, which I'm sure Kate will touch on in a minute. From getting it into schools and getting it into people's hands, we released a couple of years ago an amazing set of tools called Learning Tools. This is a free service, and one of my colleagues, Mike, will be showing it probably near the end of this. But it's really getting that in and enabling parents, teachers, students to touch and to feel, and them talking about it. It's so much more powerful when it comes from someone that's been positively affected by it, rather than from us saying, hey, we've got this.
The other thing that I thought was interesting is that all these wonderful things, the voice to text and sort of splitting up sentences or underlining or highlighting or splitting up various sounds, that helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
even just as you're trying to write something.
Absolutely, and we're finding, although originally we set this for students, we're seeing everyone all the way through using, I mean, you've got to think there's 700 million dyslexics around the world. That's a massive number. And we're seeing more and more people embracing learning tools because, like you said, we've got the ability of text-to-talk, we've text-to-speech, we've got the ability to break words up, but we also even have Pictionary. So maybe you look at a word, you don't know what that means, you click on that word, there's a picture. It's all about giving kids the confidence they need to succeed. Because honestly, these kids are so brilliant, and if we can help them overcome this, we set them on that journey of life to succeed.
Is this framing dyslexia as a superpower? How important is that? And I want to ask both of you that question. As a gift, as something positive.
So I personally never use the word gift. I know a lot of people do. We've done really extensive research into dyslexia and the strengths. As a charity, we're called Made by Dyslexia because everybody who we work with is dyslexic. The school I went to was based on the fact that you have these brilliant kids that can't read, then became called Dyslexia. The alumni seriously reads like a who's who of presidents, prime ministers, just extraordinary people from all over the world. Dyslexia, without a shadow of doubt, is a really brilliant way of thinking. And I strongly believe that we have to be demonstrating that side of things because 9 out of 10 dyslexic people say it's their strengths that have helped them to succeed. And we need to start listening to dyslexic people that, you know, we're millions of us around the world, give us the right start in life, teach us to read because we can all read if you give us the right support. and the world really is our oyster.
And I mean, I can testify to that. I mean, as a journalist, I mean, I think it's a natural place, habitat for dyslexics. I mean, particularly television news. If you think about it, we expected to think in pictures. Television news story. You write your own script, very short sentences, no need for spelling or grammar. You read out your own piece. Nobody's reading it. They're hearing your story. And then the best thing from my point of view in terms of my career is that as a journalist, you're expected to either walk into a situation and assess what is the most important piece of information you need to give out, or what I'm doing now is anchoring. You get this vast amount of information either coming in your ear or from the wires or in a breaking news situation coming from all around you, and you've got to figure out and be that filter by which to sort of again sift through all that information and come out with the main bits that are really relevant to an audience watching, you know, around the world, to billions of people. And I only realized that actually that's a dyslexic strength after I'd had a career playing to those strengths. And I think that's the key, isn't it? Is playing to the strengths, with whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, and without a doubt, dyslexia causes some incredible challenges for our kids. And if they don't get identified and they don't get support, without a doubt, it is a struggle that at times can be hard to see as an advantage. But when given the right situation, it is that very piece that makes it difficult that can also create those things. And so on a personal level, when my son was diagnosed with dyslexia in second grade, I sat him down and I said, guess what, buddy? You inherited my gift. And there's days you're going to look for the receipt and you're going to want to return it. And I get that. But the best part about this is you're going to have to figure out how to do things differently. You're going to have, when everyone else goes left, you're going to have to turn right. But that is going to be such an amazing opportunity for you as you go through life. Like you were just saying, even as I sit here now, I am so much more comfortable talking in front of people versus reading from a script, because I had to figure out early on how to make it look like I knew what I was doing outside of a traditional classroom expectation.
That's why I can ad-lib and talk for hours on live television, but sometimes I struggle reading the prompter and I mix up the words eclectic with electric, or there's no ways I'm going to be able to read meteorologist and philanthropist. Zero chance.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you either skip them or you don't have them in there.
Yep.
So yes, and that's also another thing, is that I think, you know, from everyone's point of view, whether you're trying to teach dyslexics, you're trying to help dyslexics, or you are one, there is a sense that the pathways are different, the wiring, and that again brings challenges and weaknesses.
It does, and I think it's the most important thing is to remember there are challenges and weaknesses and to focus on the strengths, because it is what will help you in life, it is what will build your confidence. I think the issue is that we don't have that expertise in every school. If you look at the downside of what happens when you don't identify these kids and you don't give them the support they need, it's a big issue for the world. And if you couple that with the fact that we now know from the report that we're going to talk about later with EY, we know we need these people, we need these thinkers. So it really is a time for the world to act, to look at what we've known since the 30s or the 60s, mm-hmm. 60s, and just make sure that all kids are getting the start, because we have to democratise this support.
And it's not just about children, is it? I mean, I'm sure a lot of the people that are using Microsoft are undiagnosed dyslexics or self-diagnosed dyslexics at the age of 42.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I think a lot of parents go to, and certainly myself included, you support your child as best as you can. And then the homework starts reminding you of the challenges you had at school. So bit by bit, they're looking for help. And we've got a wealth of videos on our website of students and parents that have been helped by learning tools. And I think it's not the only option out there, but I would really say that it's proven to help. The other thing I would say about dyslexia is there's not a one approach fits all. Every child is different. So it's really about picking those elements that are going to help each individual child. And I really think the work you do here and the work you do is just so amazing.
Are you able to monitor or quantify how many times it's watched and where these are watched, and are you able to then in some way channel it to some areas? Give me some sense of the sort of the data behind it.
So we launched the teacher training back in
End of January.
End of January, and since the end of January we've had 75,000 teachers do this training.
And it's just an hour, isn't it?
It is, and Mike will be talking through just how many educators have consumed it. In terms of our videos around dyslexia and how we support it, if you just go and look on our websites, I don't know the numbers offhand, but I know that it's huge. What we're doing is taking those educators that have really signed up to do the Microsoft Educator community course and looking at where they are, and then seeing how can we add that additional support. Because the training we've done first off is phenomenal. The next tranche that's coming out, which is just going to be amazing, really making sure those educators are aware of that as well. And also ensuring that educators that maybe aren't aware of this training are made aware and drive and try it. And again, you know, we're doing this, we're not perfect, so any feedback or ideas or ways that Microsoft can better support, please, you know, let us know. Learning tools came about, and I'm trying not to steal Mike's thunder, but I'm going to. No, I'm not. Learning tools came about as a project in a hackathon. So a team of engineers brought to life learning tools. So I'm not going to say any more than that, but suffice to say, if you come to us and say, hey, we have this problem, we'll lean in and work with you to see how we can resolve that.
And just finally, because we want to start wrapping up, when I spoke to you about trying to get the most important things across on these videos in particular, what is it you want the message to be? I mean, is it about specifics of teaching? Is it about attitude? Is it about confidence? What is the one tool you think you've given teachers?
Sure, and Kate touched on this earlier. I think the most important thing, if we take nothing else away, it's the idea that when our schools are designed to support dyslexic learners, every single person in the building benefits. This isn't about creating something over in a corner or taking something away. It's that we are talking about the science of reading and delivering that science and those techniques to all of our schools, which will change the life of a dyslexic student and benefit everybody in the classroom.
Kate?
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's actually, you know, it really is time to stop procrastinating and to start doing. And that's very much what we're trying to do with everything we do as a charity.
Because the tools are literally here.